Okay, give me 1 second.
Is it the morning or the evening for you?
It's evening. Sorry, 1 second. Change layouts. Okay. Okay, we got that going. 1 second. Let's go here. Okay. Let's pull this. Sorry, just give me 1 second. I have to get the stream all set up
No
for
problem.
everybody. So how's your day going?
Yeah, not too bad, man. It's right now. It's 3 o'clock in the morning for me, but
Oh,
got to make
It's right now.
or interview.
nice.
Whatever.
Well, it's gonna be fun for sure. So just give me
Yeah,
one
man.
second. I'm gonna go and post this, and we'll be good. Okay. Okay, send it to myself. Okay. 1 sec.
Hey guys, staying the 0 to
1 sec. Let's go in. Create. Okay, we should be good to go. I
Perfect.
posted that. So let's see. I think everything's up and going good. Do we have mics working? Yep. Okay, good. So, all right. Hello, everybody. This is episode 4 of the Michael Shrez Show. And basically, what we're looking to do here is each week we bring out a new entrepreneur, or maybe someone who's just trying to better their finances or anything like that. And today we have a new guest. His name is Leo. He's been following the 0 to Billion Challenge for a very, very long time. And where are you coming to us from today?
I'm coming from the UK, London.
Oh,
North
okay.
London.
Yeah, and so he's up really late right now. So it's like 3 in the morning, and really appreciate you coming out. So we're going to make sure it's well worth your time. So I guess the first sort of thing here is, do you want to maybe tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your situation and what you're looking to achieve in life and in business as well? And that would be a great place to start.
Fine, perfect. So I started getting into the whole make money thing about a year ago. I really went into the online space because it looked like the most convenient at the time. But I realized if you want to be successful in anything, nothing's really that convenient. So you always have to put in as much work in everything. And so I had a lot of broken beliefs. So I started first with, I think it was promoting things on TikTok and doing it affiliate. And then from there, that didn't work. And it could have worked. I just didn't understand how hard you had to try or how hard you had to work. And I went into like affiliate blog. And then, well, right now what I'm doing is I run a digital marketing agency, an SEO agency, and I service companies, e-commerce companies, and I do SEO for those companies. So that's where I am now. It was I think I shortened that a little bit too much, but it was a long journey, a lot of working out this doesn't work and this isn't for me, and I need to learn that, I need to learn this. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry if that wasn't
No, that was good. So, okay, sorry, how old are you again?
I'm 18.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. So you're great, man. So you're just starting out. So you've done a lot in those few years. So that's funny. Same age as my brother. But okay. So I guess my next question would be, what are you looking to get out of life? Like, what are you looking to get out of your business? I know you said you want to get into the online stuff a little bit and understand the real realities of that. But like, what does success for you really look like?
So I don't know how well this is going to work or how well it's going to go to plan, but usually what you do with the agency model or the agency model, what I'm seeing people do in that space is they start an agency, whether that's a social media marketing agency, an SEO agency, something in the digital marketing space. giving people traffic, and then from there they really get an understanding, staying in that market, staying there for like 2-3 years, grow their agency, automate it in that space of time, and then they create a software that really helps agency owners, and then from there they sell that like 5 years down the line they sell that software, and you can, because of tech evaluations, if you're making 10 million a year in profit from, or even revenue, you can get like a crazy multiplier. And then usually you sell that company, and yeah, but I really want to get into private equity, so in 10 years I want to be in private equity. So
that's my business, in case you weren't aware of that. But that's the space I play in with a medical company. So I guess sorry, I should have further clarified my question earlier. When I was talking about success, I meant like, what are your personal goals, like in terms of like net worth, in terms of what your life might look like? Because what I'm trying to get at is, there are basically two different types of business journeys. There are the people who are trying to create a business to then like generate a lot of like personal assets and things like, you make a little business to maybe make a couple $100,000 a year, then buy some rental properties or things like that, or stocks or crypto or whatever, and then sort of live off that. Or there are people who say like, look, I want to build like a really, really big business. And I guess to further like, support that point, like what do you think? What of those two things, which are you sort of more inclined towards?
I want to build a really, really big business.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's the end goal.
Good.
But
Good.
there are some, like, obviously there are some vehicles you can't do that in. Like in the agency space, things have their cap. Like, for example, I don't know if you're familiar with Alex Hormozy.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
So obviously you can scale to like a 9-figure agency, but if you really, my goal is to be a billionaire. I don't know how that's going to go down. I think it's a good goal to reach, because it's a good direction to go and to chase for that. But regardless, some business models have almost a cap at what they can get to, and I don't know if this is a broken belief. However, things like acquisition.com have much greater scalability than something like, let's say, his not gym licensing model, but his gyms.
Yeah. So yeah, just to interject here. So what you're basically talking about is a situation which favors private equity, and that's what I do with my medical company, right? So the hardest thing in business to do is to start a small business and really make it into a big business just based on like one business. So like, say for example, let's just say you have a car wash, right? And you have the car wash, it's making maybe like $80,000 a year. It's going to be very difficult to make that exact car wash produce like $80 million a year. It's probably impossible, right? And that's kind of what you were talking about too. But the model has to shift based on what the goals are. So like in that case, yeah, that one car wash might only have, that number of like revenue and earnings potential per year, but you can go and buy like 100 of them, right? A car wash in like Kentucky is going to be the same as like a car wash in like Alabama, pretty much, right? So that in that model, you just favor like raising money and financing and things like that. So we can talk a lot about that, in a little bit later in the call, which will be very helpful to you. But first things first. So like, why do you want to do it with marketing agencies specifically? Because like, as you know, like there are a ton of people doing this, right?
Yeah. That is a really good question. Why do I want to do it with marketing agency? Well, I really enjoy marketing. Like when I start, obviously there's components to the business. There's obviously you've got the sales, you've got marketing, and you've got your product. And obviously my product is the marketing. So I've almost got like two products that both. So I really enjoy marketing. Full stop. So having a business that has two major components that involve marketing, it kind of excites me. And a lot of the time in my business, I'm doing what I enjoy, and so it's kind of a win-win. Like I'm able to, it's benefiting my life because I'm making money, but on top of that, I really enjoy what I'm doing. So and I feel like I've got a much greater capacity to do what I love, in terms of like how well I'm gonna go, how far I'm gonna go, how much I'm gonna achieve, instead of doing something, putting myself through something that may be better opportunity vehicle, but I'm not enjoying. I feel like I'm going to succeed in something that I enjoy doing,
Right.
which is marketing.
Okay. So I guess now the follow-up question is, so you want to basically build a marketing agency, and it sounds like you want to do it through the private equity model of doing acquisitions. Now, sorry, could you clarify again? Are you currently like working at a marketing agency, or do you sort of like have your own that you're trying to like get jobs for, basically?
I have my own now. I'm trying to
Okay.
get jobs for.
And if you're comfortable, like what, like have you like got any sales so far? Like what's the approximate like revenue?
Um, I don't know if I'm comfortable saying revenue, but right now I've got one client.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, so I'm at the beginning stages. Yeah.
No, that's fine. And then, okay, so basically, what you want to do now is you need to look at yourself and say, look, do I have the skills to sell more? Okay, so I'll pose you that question. Do you think that? And then if you think you do, like what sort of evidence is there for that?
I definitely do not have the skills to sell more. I'm lacking in selling
Mm-hmm.
right now, so I think the best way I'm going to overcome that is I'm going to implement a email marketing strategy, because I feel like it's much cheaper than obviously like LinkedIn paid ads, and
Okay.
I can't right now afford the cost per acquisition because I'm not confident enough in my closing. So I'm thinking of starting an email marketing campaign and getting my clients through that, trying to book people on calls. I'll obviously at the same time get very good at email marketing if I stay consistent and do it enough. I understand that it would be unreasonable for me to be good right now. So I'm going to put in the time, put in the work, learn email marketing and sales through that process. And eventually, as time goes on, get better and better and better until it'd be unreasonable for me not to be good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my plan to cover that sector of the business.
Okay, that's good because it's very good that you have that sort of understanding of like where your strengths and weaknesses are, because a lot of people don't have that, right? And I'll give you an example. Like I have friends who are very passionate about this medical messaging company, and they've been working at it's a tech company. They've been working at it for like 6 or 7 years now, and their skills are not in sales, right? So they've just been developing this product, developing this company, hiring people, burning through investor money and all those things, but they're not actually selling the product, right? So I always like put that emphasis on people to say like, okay, what can you do to maximize your ability to sell? And you have to be honest with yourself. Like a lot of people tell me like, oh, I can sell or whatever, but they really can't, right? So it's really sort of comforting to hear that from you, to say that that's not really your strength, and this is how you're going to try to get around that. Because the brutal reality is that if you're trying to do private equity, you need a lot of money to start with that, right? Like most of the time, like you can go one of two ways. You can say like, okay, I fully understand you don't technically need a lot of money to start, because you can do things like seller financing and earnouts and things like that. But the most realistic outcome here is that, especially when you're doing your first deal, you're going to need to put some of your money into it, like as equity, right? So you need to figure out over the next like couple of years how you can make, or not even a couple of years, maybe over the next like 5 years or something, how you can make like a couple $100,000 in like cash that you can go and put towards doing these acquisitions, right? So that key point is going to come down to your ability to generate sales, because there's basically no other way that you're going to be able to make money at this phase, right? So if you're putting through that marketing campaign, remember I don't want you to like lose sight of the fact that, okay, even once you onboard a customer, there is still an element of customer management there too, and account management, right? So you have to be sort of comfortable doing that as well. And yeah, so I guess like posing that to you, like so I understand there's a huge difference between active selling and like prospecting and managing accounts. Do you feel like once you have these people like onboarded, you can kind of manage them all right?
So one of my clients is in my client is in actually, he's in month 2, and I seem to be managing, because I've only got one client and I've got a lot of time. See, I'm managing the relationship very well. It's going very smoothly. I'm getting them great results, but I understand what you're saying. As my company scales and I'm getting more clients, will I have the systems in place to manage multiple different clients? And I guess when that problem comes to me, I will try and solve it best. But thinking forward, what I'm likely going to do is put people in place, or if I can't afford those people, create systems, very efficient systems that allow me to micromanage my time in a way where I can fulfill all those people's needs.
Hmm.
So I guess when the problem arises, I think I'll be able to solve it.
Yeah, so you have a pretty good understanding of business management and things like that. I guess general follow up question is like, where did that come from? Did you grow up from an entrepreneurial family, or was this stuff kind of like intuitive to you, or?
Um, so I did grow up in an entrepreneurial family, as in like my dad, he runs a website design company, and he
Okay.
runs like a big e-commerce website, and he's like an entrepreneur himself.
Hmm.
I didn't really get it through him. I got it more through binge watching people's YouTube videos and trying
Oh,
to learn from other people online. But I also did get a lot of information, but not kind of the business management side. It was more just like mentality advice from my dad. Like he used to tell me, oh, he still tells me, like stay focused on one thing, otherwise
hmm.
nothing's gonna work. Like he
That's right.
he kind of like every time I'm going straight and he kind of knocks me back in the straight position. So
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? A lot of times when people start out, they think that they are good at a lot of different things, and that's pretty much never the case. Like if you're good at
mhm,
one thing, just do that 100%. That's what I tell people all the time on social media and all these things, because like it's just a natural human tendency to sort of like over promote or over express like your abilities, right? And
yeah.
when you say this, that sounds kind of negative, but the game doesn't care. Like the business world, the market does not care if you think that you're good when you're not, because the end
Mhm,
result is always the same, right? If you're not good
yeah.
at something, you're not going to like advance in business, because that's not how capitalism works, right? So you need to always be honest with yourself about that. So if your best thing, so I guess would you say your best actual skill is like developing the content? Then would you say?
Um, I think my best actual skill is my fulfillment, which is the SEO. That is my that's what the company's running off right now, because I don't have my sales skills are terrible, and
Hmm.
I know that's the area I need to improve on.
Hmm.
So if my fulfillment wasn't good and my SEO skills weren't good, my company would die.
Hmm.
If I don't get they're just gonna leave me.
Of
And
course.
so I think that's my strong point right now, my ability to fulfill on my promise.
Okay, that's good. And yeah, I guess now, so I kind of want to structure this call so it's like a best, like a very good use of your time, right? So later we'll
Mhm.
talk about how to do acquisitions and how to really like build that model. But right now we need to figure out how you're going to get the money to actually do this, right? So
Yeah.
over what timeline would you like to try to like buy a company or buy an additional agency?
I'm I want to say 5 years
Okay.
because I really want to focus on just growing my agency to. I want it to get to 7 figures a year. That's the real goal.
Okay.
Eight figures is like it would be crazy if that could happen, but um, I just want to focus on one target right now. When I hit that, go to the next target. So I want to grow my agency to 7 figures, and then I want to look at my competitors and see if there's people way ahead of me, and if there's people way ahead of me, then I know it's possible to get to that point, and I
Hmm.
won't stop until I get to that point where I have to restructure my entire business. But after I scale my agency to a point where it can't scale anymore, I think that's when I want to get to a point where I'm starting to acquire other people's companies. So
Right.
and the timeline is, I'm saying, 7 to 10 years. So it's going to be a long ride.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all pretty reasonable. So if you're looking to get to basically $1 million in revenue over the next 5 years, then simple math tells you you're going to be needing to bring on about $200,000 in revenue per year. Now,
Mhm.
that can come out in a lot of different ways, but do you think like the actual price point of the services you're trying to sell are going to be able to like play into this, right? Because let me tell you something, like if you're thinking like marketing agencies are like huge. It covers a huge spectrum of different things, right? Some people are trying to do like smaller jobs that are more frequent. Some people are trying to do like bigger campaigns and things like that. I think for someone like yourself who's not that like good at selling, basically you should
Yeah.
sort of look at trying to get like these bigger clients that you can go after, right? Because
Mhm.
you probably don't want to be playing the game where you're trying to sell to a huge number of customers, because that's not your
Yeah.
strength, right?
Mhm.
So um, basically, you need to really, really hit with this customer you have now, right? And basically get like some really good testimonials from them if you can, and then use that as a launch pad to get some more customers. And that's how it has to go, because like the hardest thing, man, is literally scaling revenue from zero. So far you've generated like something, which is very positive, but you need to always be thinking, okay, where's my next sale coming from, right? And I know this might sound like intuitive or whatever, but you need to put a huge emphasis on that, because like you said, if you're not the one actually selling and fulfilling these things, then nothing's going to happen, right? So you need to be basically spending the majority of your time right now, I feel like, in this customer acquisition mode, right? So like it just means you're gonna have to work like extra hard, because you can't fall behind on your fulfillment. So like you said, you have to keep this current customer happy, but you need to be acquiring customers at a very, very rapid pace in order to meet your goals, right? So I would just be very, very cognizant of that for sure.
I think that's great advice. Yeah, I think that's exactly what I need to do. Because the only way my business is going to pick up any momentum is more clients. That means money in the door. And it also means I've got to develop my sales skills, and the only way to do that is through selling. So.
Yeah, and I've that example earlier I told you with my friends with the medical company. They've been telling me for years, yes, we're going to scale to $1 million in ARR, which is average annual revenue, and they're still not even halfway there, and they're like 7 years into it, right? And they're burning through a ton of cash, and it's just like all they're doing is like raising more money and burning it essentially. It's like, that's not for me, right? Like that's not what I like. That's not how I like to do business. I always like to have cash flow coming in that covers everything, and then I use that cash flow to really build up the business and buy other businesses and other assets, right? So it's like you have to put a huge emphasis on selling. You might have to work like I don't know, 16, 17, 18 hours a day, whatever it is, and just go all in on it, man. Like you have to do it, right? There's no other option for you. Like if you just have this one customer, you're not going to meet your $1 million goal within 5 years. It's just simple math, right? Because the hardest thing, man, is like when you get behind on sales and your targets, and you try to like overcompensate for that, that's just like a death spiral. You don't want that at all. You want like good, consistent revenue coming in, so you know where your next paycheck is coming from. You know where the next money is coming from to be able to like hire people essentially, or scale the business. Anything you want to do, right? So that's critical to really establish that pipeline for sure.
Yeah. I've also noticed that I really need to map and smoothen out my sales and onboarding process. Like I really have to have a clear way of doing it, so it can be repeatable. Because if it's all over the place, if I'm just like, I'll come on a call and then we'll talk, and then we do it in multiple calls one time, and then it's not sustainable. I understand that everything has to be systemized, because when you build a business, you're building a machine that eventually you want to run itself. So everything has to be completely systemized. And so I really agree with you.
Yeah, so that's good. And like that's what you have to do. You have to get the sales in the door, and then once you start making a little bit of revenue, a critical mistake that you should try to avoid is not trying to like lower your prices too much. Okay, so like when you're making a sale, don't just do like any pricing possible and only make like pennies on the dollar here. Like when you're trying to do something, you want to be making sure that you have good margin on it, because I've seen so many people too, like in the startup stage, they just try and say like, okay, I'm going to try to do like any potential sale that I can. That's really not good advice. That's really not good strategy, because you're just going to get behind on it, because eventually what happens is you end up taking on so much business that you have to start outsourcing it, and then because you sold it for such a low price, you're going to be making essentially like no money on it, or it could even go negative because your fulfillment costs are going to greatly exceed your actual revenue that's coming in. And this happens all the time because people say yes too much and not like selectively pick, okay, which customer is going to be like the best fit for us. And let me tell you how that actually works, right? When you are really good at sourcing your customers and prospecting, eventually, you will be able to pitch your value such in a way that these people understand it really well. And that's what makes a really good partner for them, because at that point, you're not selling a price, you're selling quality and you're selling a service, right? And that's the sort of golden area for you to really be successful with, because like you don't want to be the guy who's selling like the cheapest marketing in the area. That's not sustainable. That's not going to work. You want to be selling the best service you can possibly produce for a good, fair, high price. So that's the good mentality for you to have too.
I tried to go in when I started my agency. I did a lot of research into pricing, because I understood that pricing is like it plays the biggest role in terms of like your balance sheet at the end of the day. And I positioned my agency. I don't know if I had the authority to do so because I had no results, had no testimonies, but I did so anyway. And I positioned my agency as so first of all we do full SEO campaigns. So we do a full SEO campaign, and I positioned myself as the premium kind of higher end version. So there are different components in SEO, and for example, I only source high quality links. I only create high quality non AI generated content, things like that. I constantly go after these things, and I make sure to fulfill on these things also. So I can actually make a margin, and then therefore, by making a margin, it will make my product better because I have more time to do the things I need to do to drive the business forward, and that also benefits the clients at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah, and that's a great way to continue to build your business. So I guess you kind of know now like what you need to do over the next like 12, 24 months. So you need to, of course, you need to sell more, keep your quality like very, very good, make sure you're fulfilling all these orders that are coming in, and you have to acquire customers. Okay, this is all obvious stuff. Now, if something goes wrong during that point, you have to be able to, really like pivot and fixate on it, right? And I'm telling you, like, do not take the sales for granted. That is one of the hardest things to do. And you should have a couple different ideas of how you might go about, selling these products if your email marketing campaign doesn't work out, right? And that's a problem a lot of people have. They'll have a great product or service, but they do not get the reaction from the market that they sort of intended, or that it might be, it might be worth, because they're not selling it in or presenting it in the best fashion, right? So this is not something you can decide today, or this is not something I can tell you. You just have to like see, okay, are people responding to what I'm saying? If the answer is no, you need to like change that, right? Change how you're like reaching out to these people, change, the messaging, change, everything about it, because it like advertising and like a customer acquisition, it is a science, but it's also an art, right? You have to like look at it through the perspective of, hey, if I was sent this message, would I actually read it? And a lot of people don't think like that, right? I own a $50 million medical company, right? My email and all my stuff is all like public information on all kinds of like different websites and all this stuff. I get emailed probably, I don't know, maybe like 200 times a day by just random people. And they're pretty much all the same. They're all saying like, "Hey, Michael, I want to talk with you to accomplish this," and like I have no interest in that, right? And like, it's not appealing to me in any way. So you need to think, okay, how can I say something that people actually enjoy or would want to read, right? And that's where the art comes in. So when you're doing these like mass campaigns, you need to think about how you can best present yourself and really capitalize on your strengths and why people would want to work with you.
Yeah. Sometimes what I actually do is I also get these emails for some reason. I think it's because I sign up to random things, but I usually save the emails that piqued my interest, so I can like analyze it, break it down, see where did it pique my interest, like
Right.
what was the specific bits, and I screenshot them. I've got like a folder, so when I do start it, I can take pieces that really caught my attention and then input them into my own strategies. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So I think that's a pretty good covering of how you can go about generating like more revenue for your business and really getting to the level where you have some money over the next like couple of years. And I guess let's sort of play it out. So let's say you're like 4 or 5 years down the line, you actually have $1 million in revenue. Let's say your gross profit on that is like 300,000 or 400,000, which is probably realistic after you start like get to that size, because you have to pay people, you'll have more inefficiencies and these sort of things. So let's say you actually have like 300,000 a year to invest. Now, at that point, if you want to start buying companies, there's a couple things you have to really understand and consider, right? So the hardest deal is always the first one, because you have no track record. Banks in general, they do not like giving people money to buy companies when they're just starting out and they're really young and they don't have experience. It's just the reality of the world, right? But like once you get one under your belt and you can show that you can do it, it's really easy to keep doing it, right? And really keep scaling it up that way. So the key thing is how you are going to get the money to buy one of these companies. And there are a couple different ways you can do it. But in my opinion, if I were to do it all again, I would, have a business, have it making good money. I would get a loan on the business that's already making money, and I would use that money to buy a small company in combination with seller financing to really close it. So let me give you an example. So say you have your marketing company. Again, we'll use that same example. You have about 300,000 in net income. You can go to the bank, say like, look, I want a loan for the company to really like grow and expand operations. Depending on how good you are at presenting yourself to the bank, they might give you anywhere from about like 300,000 all the way up to 900,000. But I don't want to get your hopes up because 900,000 would be very, very insane at your level. Like at my level now, I can raise up to like 4.25x debt to actual EBITDA. So for every $1 million of earnings, I can raise like $4.25 million in debt for that. So that's like pretty much the top level of anything like outside of like a public company or something. So your level is going to be closer to like 1 to 2x. So for every dollar in income you have, you'll be able to raise like a dollar or two worth of debt. So that will be a good source of money for you. And let me explain the difference, okay? So let's say you wanted to go buy a $1 million company, right? And you said, okay, bank, I want you guys to give me a loan to go buy this company. Well, in that case, they're going to be a lot tougher on you because they're going to say, okay, now you're going through the rigors of saying like, look, you have no experience in buying companies, you don't have a track record, right? So they're only going to give you like a maximum of like 35 to probably like 40% of that actual purchase price, and they're going to be a massive pain in the ass in that first deal because they're basically going to they're going to give you zero benefits of the doubt. They're going to say, okay, we need a quality of earnings report or a lot of accounting reports, and they'll require like certain accountants to do the work for you. It's going to cost you like probably like $20, $30, $40,000, no questions asked, to actually get the paperwork to just buy the company to satisfy the bank, if they'll even give you a chance to do that, right? That's going to be insanely difficult for you. Like when I started out doing it, I had to get like a 12% loan, right, from like a private lender basically. So it was hell. But going back on it now, like think about that. So that is like one way to do it, and that's very difficult. The alternative is what I was saying, right? You can go and get a loan on your company because now you're not a new company. You have 5 years of operating experience. You started it from zero. It's been running for 5 years. You've been showing steady, consistent growth. The bank is more willing to give you money on that company, right? So let's say they give you a loan for $500,000 or $600,000 on your company. You can take that money, go to the sellers of some other business that you're looking to buy, and say, look, okay, we have your company here. We want to buy it for $1 million. I'll give you $500,000 in cash, and the other $500,000 I'm going to pay you back over 5 years, right? And I don't have any financing clauses. We can close this in a week. They're going to go for that, guaranteed. And that's going to be a lot easier for you to go and do that deal because now, through the bank size, they didn't finance an acquisition. They lent your company money to just grow and like operate, right? And that key difference is going to help you immensely in trying to actually raise money from the banks, 100%.
That was a lot to take in, but
well, I have it recorded too, so you can go and watch it back.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch some few notes.
Yeah.
Just pen and pad.
Yeah, so basically like acquisitions and actually doing them is information that so few people are actual like experts on. Like most of the people who do this are, like old and they have gray hair because they've worked in like companies like Bain and McKinsey and all these huge business development and brokerage companies for years and years and years, and then they sort of get into it after that, right? It's like every time now, I get invited to a bank meeting or conferences and things like that. Like I'm normally the youngest person there by like 25 or 30 years, at least, right? And I just turned 30. So what's that tell you? There's not very many young people who actually do acquisitions because it's really, really hard, right? And it's so easy to like lose your money in them. So it's just an incredibly difficult thing to do. So basically, what I explained to you is how you can actually go about getting the money to buy it. That's completely separate from having the expertise of knowing if what you're buying is a piece of shit or if it's like gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to that, that's a whole completely different skill set. That's something you can really only learn through experience, right? But I guess like if that sounds interesting to you, you can always start with like smaller ones, right? And go through that route. So I guess it would really depend what you would want. So when I was starting out, I didn't really buy a small company. I bought a company that was like $5 million, and it was a blessing. But buying that as your first company is very difficult due to the size, right? So what you'll find is the smaller companies typically they have more inefficiencies and they're less well run, so you can get them a little bit cheaper, but it's going to be a lot more hands-on work and there's a lot more potential for it to go wrong. So I guess at that point you'll have to like go back and evaluate your risk tolerance and see what you want to do. And again, you always have to evaluate, okay, does it make sense to actually buy this company, or should I just take the money and invest it in the business that I have right now that's growing well, right? So these are all things that you have to consider for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I know.
Watch this, but
I know that was a lot, but I guess
Um,
having listened to what I just said, what questions do you have from that, or if you want me to repeat something?
So if we can go back to the first dilemma where you said raising raising the capital through the banks, and then could you go into more detail about how to do that without any? Do you need startup capital to even raise money from the banks?
Sure. I'll answer that in 1 second. I always have a couple questions from the chat. Let me see here. Heidi says, would you suggest acquiring a drop shipping store? Probably not, because what's going to happen there is most likely what's proprietary about their store is how they're doing the marketing. That's probably not going to transfer as well to you. That's going to be a difficult one. I probably wouldn't do that, but if you can buy it, you can buy it with an earnout and say like, look, because there's so much risk here, I'll only put like 30 or 40% down as a purchase price, and then I'll pay the rest of it to you as the company makes more money, and we pay it out. So that's going to be very difficult for you. I would not recommend it because you probably don't have the experience to pull that off. I would not recommend that for your first acquisition. And he also asked, oh, he actually wants to know if he can contact you on Instagram, because he's also in the UK and working in marketing. So you might.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Should I like say it on here?
Yeah. You can tell him your name, and I can also type it also. 1 second.
Yeah. I think that would work out better, man, instead of spelling it all out.
Yeah, that's so bad. Like, it's just so hard whenever you're talking to somebody and trying to also like give them text.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. I put his Instagram in the thing there if you want to talk to him after. So, okay, going back to your question, you want to know about how to get the money, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say if you don't start a business and then have your own capital from the business, or like trust from the business you've started, like if you're just going to acquire a business without having a business before, does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So when you're starting out, so it changes based on your experience level and what you've done, right? So like right now, I can 100% buy a company with bank financing and not have to put my own money into it. So I can't say for 100% certainty if I could do that as my first deal, but I could get pretty close. Like maybe I'd have to put in like 5% or something, but that's after like doing this and having this experience for 7 years. So if I'm looking at it through the perspective of what's possible for like a person who's just starting out with it, it's pretty much impossible. But let me explain more what I mean, right? So if you are looking to buy something with bank financing and you don't have a previous company, that's completely fine, but you will have to put in some of your own money into the deal. And the bank basically wants to know that you have skin in the game, essentially. So they're gonna ask if you're new, they know you're new too. Like bankers are very smart, man. Like their number one thing is they don't lose money, right? Like whenever they lose money, the bank basically goes bankrupt. Like you've seen it with Credit Suisse and these guys in the past. a few quarters. Like as soon as they start making bad loans, the bank's done. So their risk tolerance is very, very low typically. So if you're new to it and you want to buy a company, they're going to say, okay, if the company's $1 million, they'll say, okay, no problem. We'll give you 400,000 for it. You're going to go put up 300,000, and then okay, we'll accept seller financing for the balance of it. It's going to be very difficult, right? Not impossible, but the better way to do it is to not involve the bank at all when you're just starting out. If you don't have any previous company or anything to really like generate financing from, right? You're going to want to go to someone and try to basically negotiate as much seller financing as possible. And this is possible, right? Like a lot of people don't understand. There are basically two types of people who buy companies, but there are three types of companies that are actually for sale, right? So number one is the types of people who buy companies. Typically, they're people who work for a lot of years, save up some money, they want to get into it and give it a shot. The other type is like people like me who are like professionals, right? And they look at like buying like the bigger companies. So that's the buy side. The sell side is very different. So the sell side, you have like the big companies that people have built up over 20 or 30 years that people like me buy. Okay, so those balance out. Then you have these smaller sort of companies where some guys maybe been working at it for like 20 or 30 years, but it's not a huge company. It's probably like a medium-sized company, something like that. And those are the ones where the buyer who has worked his whole life, saved up some money, then he can afford to go buy that company, right? And he can use his money as a down payment to go buy it and finance it with the bank or whatever. The third type of seller is basically the ones where they're just like an owner operator of the business. Okay, it's very small scale. It's maybe they've been doing it for like 10 years or something. Maybe they make some money doing it, but they don't have all of the infrastructure in place. They don't have the management. They don't have the the moat, as they say, with the company. There's problems with it, and then they also don't have like a succession plan. Like you wouldn't believe, like pretty much every business they've ever bought was from a family, like a father and a wife or whatever, or just like some guy who's been doing it for a long time, and then his kids want nothing to do with it, and then we're basically buying that business. The same thing happens with those smaller companies. The guy doesn't have anyone to give it to either, but now there's no one who's trying to buy that company. Do you understand? So this guy's trying to sell a company that there are no buyers for. This creates a great opportunity for you to step in and say, look, no one wants to buy this piece of shit, okay? I'll buy it. I'll step up and I'll buy this thing. I'll get you a cash out on this, but you have to work with me on the actual payment terms. So say, look, I don't have all this money to give you off the gate. So again, this is assuming you didn't have the business to generate the money, or you couldn't get the bank financing because you didn't have the history or the money, right? So you say, look, maybe you want to buy it, it's like $1 million or whatever, right? Maybe you only have like 50 grand. But like, again, this guy's business is like not marketable to the people who want to buy the company because of all these problems that we talked about, right? You say, look, I'll give you 50 grand down, but the rest of it, I'm going to have to pay you back over, 7 or 8 years through like an earnout. And you might think like, that guy's never going to accept that. But they do, because he has no other option. Like this guy might be like 60 or 70 years old. He doesn't want to keep doing this shit. He just wants to say, okay, look, I'll do this. You just send me a check each year, and then I'm going to go retire. And that is the majority of businesses. It's like, that is what like 99.9% of all businesses are businesses like that. They're not big companies, man. Like my company right now, my medical company, is literally like top 100 company in Canada. Like that, like isn't that like crazy?
Yeah.
Like it's that like top 100, and it's like, that there are no big companies. Like companies do not start small and grow like that. It pretty much never happens, right? And that is why you have a tremendous opportunity there. So do you get what I'm saying? So basically, if you don't have the business, if you don't have like a ton of money to put into it, you can still buy the company, but you can't buy like the sort of like A-level companies that the good investors who have the accreditation and everything want to buy. You have to buy the lower tier stuff that there are no buyers for. And that's how you get the terms that you can work with and buy the company with.
Fine. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now. I've got a question though, just really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Would you classify as a small, medium, and large company in terms of like ARR?
Did you say AR?
ARR, Like,
Oh, revenue. I thought you said accounts receivable. I'm like, that would be a very weird way of analyzing that.
no, no.
So you're asking like me specifically, or what the average person?
What, like, you specifically?
Okay.
obviously.
So small for me is like under 10 million in size for sure. Yeah, like medium is like 11 to like 30 right now, and then above 30 million is would be big. And like someone who's like 5 years down the road from me would call that a joke, right? And they would say like 100 million is like medium. But like for right now, like when I think about medium, I think of, okay, I can buy any company at that size whenever I want and be good with it, right? So if someone gave me like a $25 million deal tomorrow, I could do it. Like if it was like 50 million, I'd have to get really creative on how to structure it to have the money to do it. So that's why that's big for me, right? But 50 million for someone who's just starting is literally impossible. You're never going to do it, right? Because if it's at that size, it's too valuable, it's too good of a company. They're never going to give you those terms to buy it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How did you learn about all of this? What was it like? What age did you start understanding this stuff? Like, where did you get this information from? It seems like you've got gold.
Yeah, so like I said, man, like I didn't really have any teachers or anything. I just like went through hell to like learn all this stuff and do it. So like when I was 18, I was actually in school to be a doctor. I was always very intellectually curious about science and medicine and all these things. And it's funny, like I went for that, and I'm glad I went to university because I met a ton of like really good people who help me a lot now and play like paramount roles like in my business and things like that. But I always knew I was going into business, right? So I spent like 5 years in university, and then I graduated. And then when I was 24, I said like, look, I don't want to go to medical school. Like I could have, I had the opportunity to. I need to get into business because that's like what my family was. That's how I was always like brought up. So I started basically selling books and scaling the Amazon store up, and I made over $1 million in the first like year or so there. I took that money, and then when I was 25, went and bought my medical company, and that's where I had to use like the 12% loan and all of those things. And if you're wondering like where I had the experience, like I didn't have any experience. I just knew by like looking at something if it was a business that I wanted to buy, where the problems were, if I could grow it. And I just learned everything by doing it, right? Like I didn't have all the answers. Like I didn't have any of this financing information. Like the things I'm saying in this the call right now, like this is not even like really public information. Like nobody knows anything about like high level financing if you're not on like Wall Street or like working at like a huge company. It's just a fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you learn it is by literally doing deals and by like negotiating and doing all these things, and then you just get better and better and better at it. Like I could literally give you, like I have pretty much given you like a bunch of like tools and tips and things like that already, but that's just the starting point. To be able to actually pull it off takes years and years and years of experience because man, like I'll tell you these things, but you probably won't do them or you probably won't believe some of them until you actually experience them, right? Like when you're financing something, for example, the bank will give you a term sheet. And on the term sheet, it'll say, okay, we're going to give you this amount of money at this interest rate. We have like all these conditions and all these things. And to like a beginner, you're just going to say, oh, good, they're giving me money. I'm going to sign like whatever they're telling me to sign. Thank God they're giving me money. That's not what the professionals do. Like, I'll get that thing, and I'll be like, wow, this is the biggest piece of shit ever. Like, I'll literally tell them that. You go and scratch out the terms on it. Like, you literally do this. This is not an exaggeration. They send you this form, and it's signed by, like, the vice president of the bank and all this stuff, and you literally go and start crossing it out. Say, like, no, you want me to pay? No, I'm serious, man. Like, they'll say, like, oh, we want you to pay, like, $20,000 in like fees for like reviews, and you cross it out and you put like 3,000, then you initial on it, and then you do this through all of the terms. But like if you're just starting out, you're not gonna have the guts to do that. I guarantee you. Even though I'm telling you this, I guarantee you're not gonna do it because you're like, I'm not just saying you specifically. I'm saying like anyone who does it, because you're gonna think, oh, I have so much to lose. But you literally do all of that. You send it back to them. And then, like, they accept most of them because, like, you know, they've already spent the time, like, doing the diligence. That's a whole other topic. But, like, basically, when you act and behave like you belong, they treat you better. And they know right away, like they can sense fear, man. Like I'm telling you, these people who do the loan and the credit departments and all the things that like verify the loans and approve them, they can smell fear. They know if you're full of shit. They know if you're not confident. They know all these things, right? So it's a huge skill. And like the reason why we're talking about this is because it's the easiest part of doing the deal is getting the money for the deal, but that's the part where people think is the hardest, but it's also the hardest thing to actually master as a beginner, if that makes sense. So once you have the skills, it's so easy. Like I can literally make a phone call tomorrow to the vice president of HSBC, who I literally have a personal relationship with, and get pretty much like any loan that I want, right? Like pretty much no one else who's like at my age or younger in the country can do that, right? And that's because I have like years of experience and results, right? Like what I do is I talk to these people, I bring them results. I always have like good things to show that we're doing well. We always buy companies, and like I'm a good sort of guarantor of the bank's money, and that's why they like me, right? And like I tell them what I want, right? And they just do it. And sometimes you have to get pissed off and do it, right? And it's just how it goes, man. It's a whole game. Like this whole system of buying companies and financing, it's a whole game that 99.9999999% of the people have no idea about. So it's a whole thing, man.
I mean, to be honest, this has been like a real, I don't know how to put it, like, I didn't even realize this was a thing before you.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't know you could just like acquire a company. I thought you had to build it from the ground up and then have the capital to buy it outright. I didn't know about like financing it or getting like a 12% interest loan from like a private place.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing, right? Like everyone thinks that getting money to do the deal is the problem. Everybody thinks that. And that's why like most people can never do it, because they don't understand what the problem is. The problem is not buying the company, okay? If you have the skills and expertise, you will always be able to finance it. That's not a problem. The problem is running the company once you buy it. Because what always happens is when you buy it, it starts going south. Every single time, because the people are like, oh, you know, who are these guys coming in here? You know, they don't know anything about the business. They're trying to like boss me around. And like what you have to do is you literally have to go in, start firing people. It's like you go talk to the manager, say like, all right, who sucks here? Because normally what happens is when people are considering selling a business, they start getting complacent. When they start getting complacent, they don't want to worry about the drama. They don't want to hear it anymore. They don't have the drive to continue like improving the business, right? That's why they're selling it. If they had the drive, they wouldn't be selling it, right? And when these problems start accumulating, people start slacking. People start getting pissed off. So you need to go in there and say like, look, I'm here. I'm not messing around. Like this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this company successful no matter what. And it's like you go to the manager and stuff and say like, look, who's slacking here? Who needs to go? And they'll tell you. They'll be like, oh, this guy sucks, this guy sucks, this guy sucks. Don't even waste time doing like, trying to like turn them around or whatever. Gone, out. Like, boom, 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 like fast, like get them out. It's just like, no, it's just like, when you're starting out, man, you're never going to do it. I guarantee you're not, right? But like when you start hearing these stories over and over and over, you start understanding, look, you know, the people who give the effort, the people who are bringing it every single day, those people are not going to be complacent and lazy. And those people that are really driving the business, they can't stand the people that are the passengers that are being lazy, right? And they like really, really applaud and rally around the fact that, oh, these guys are coming in, they're serious, they want to improve this thing, they're getting rid of the bad people, they're setting out plans. That motivates people, right? And that's the best thing, man. So it's a whole... Like, buying companies is like a whole lifetime of learning. And if you want to do it at a high level, you just have to start by doing it and going after it. Because you're never going to know, like, I've told you all these things. Like, this is not even like 1% of what I know about doing this, right? There's like so many things about like hiring people, firing people, managing people, investing in products, marketing your products, expanding, all these things. These are all the secondary and tertiary considerations, right? And when you sort of wrap your head around some of these areas, you start to realize, holy shit, there is so much to know. But the best thing about starting is you don't know what you don't know, right? And like if you know, holy shit, I am lacking in like 10 different areas, I'm not going to do this. when I was 25 and getting into this, I didn't know 99% of it. And that was a blessing from the universe, right? Because I don't know, one of my gifts is that like I never waste time worrying about what I don't know or what I'm bad at. I just don't do it, right? Like that is a true gift. And if I was in that position again, where I was just starting out and I knew like, oh my God, I don't know like these 30 different things, like the average person is just not going to do it. I would probably just still like not give a shit and just do it anyways. But I'm saying I had the added benefit of not knowing about it. Right. So it was not even a thought in my mind. And then when like terrible things happen, I'm like, oh, okay, that's why that happened. And then I started learning from that.
Well, yeah. it's especially, oh, it's a lot to take in, but yeah, I can kind of relate to that on a on a much smaller scale. Like when I started my SEO agency, like there were a lot of things I wasn't prepared. I didn't know I would have had to do. Like for example, when I started, I had no idea. Like I know it sounds really stupid, but I had no idea that when you make a website, it's not just you make a website. You have to go out and then push that website out to the world. I thought people would just come to my website. It was stupid. It was a stupid thought, but yeah, I had to actually do the things that make it rank. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's for sure, man. There's so many things. So we're just gonna read some questions from the chat here. Was surprised to see another one from the UK. Yeah. By the way, can't see the IG link. Doesn't show in chat. Oh. Okay, here. Let me go again. Leo. Yeah, it's Leo MixD. Okay. Okay, there we go. And let's check on YouTube here if we have any comments. Okay, so there are so many boutique marketing companies out there. Yes, there are. So you have to be very stringent on how you're going to stick out, how you're going to market, how you're going to sell. That is very, very important, 100%. Then, let's see. A bunch of people agreeing. People like my comment about the buying the companies. Yeah, I'm telling you guys. Yeah. So we'll have to clip that one. That one is pretty good.
Yeah.
But then
You should put that in the shorts. I'll definitely.
yeah, I'm gonna start doing that for sure. But then yeah, so I guess wow, we've been going at it for over an hour now. So I guess to sort of like close it out, like what else can I help you with? Like what do you have any questions or anything you want me to like rehash again? What are your thoughts?
Honestly, I thought this interview was, or whatever you want to call it. I thought it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. But it is 3:46 in the morning. And I
Yeah, you need to go for sure, man.
I'm tired, man. I'm nodding off a little bit. So, thank you very much, man. This is great. I'll continue watching YouTube videos and your Instagram. Anyway, man.
That's great, man. Okay, yeah, good luck with everything, and we'll touch base again. Maybe we'll get you back in maybe 6 months or something. You give us an update video on how everything's going, and then maybe we can give some more advice from there or something, okay?
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Yeah.
Have a nice one.
Have a good night, man. Yeah, good luck, okay?
Thank you. Good luck as well with your buying out massive companies and firing everyone.
It's all right, man. Someone's got to be the villain. There's always the villain and the hero. The only difference is what side you're looking at it from. That's all it is.
True. That's true.
Anyway, see ya, man. Well, guys, that was a pretty good video, I'd say. Jesus, we're gonna get a lot of good clips out of that. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. That was certainly a lot of fun, for sure. Okay. Have a good night, guys.